do not agree on everything. This is actually a really unique an opportunity to hear a different view. Now, as these trade negotiations stall out, it's helpful to know how the Chinese Communist Party is thinking about trade and about the United States. Now, in the interest of transparency, I should explain that I don't speak for anyone but myself as the host of a Fox Business show. My guest, however, is part of the CCP, and that's fine. As I said, I welcome different perspectives on this show. With all that in mind, I'm very pleased tonight to welcome Ms. Liu Xin, host of the primetime opinion program, The Point, with Trish Regan Primetime tonight. Now, just quickly to the viewers, please bear with us, as we have a significant delay in our satellites between Beijing and the U.S., and because of that, we're going to do our very best not to speak over each other, but welcome. It's good to have you here.
Trish, having me. It's a great opportunity for me, unprecedented. I never dreamed that I would have this kind of opportunity to speak to you and to speak to many audiences in States.
It is indeed
unprecedented. Which I need to correct. I need to correct because
I'm going to jump in. I guess our satellites are getting kind of weird. But tell me, forgive me. You are not what?
Yeah, Trish, I have to get it straight. I am not a member of the Communist Party of China. This is on the record. So please don't assume that I'm a member, and I don't speak for the Communist Party of China. And I'm here for today. I'm only speaking for myself as Liu Xin, a journalist working for CGTN. So if anybody wants to quote me or anything, please put my name there at least.
Okay, appreciate it. What's your current assessment of where the trade talks actually are right now? Do you believe, give me your current assessment of where we are on these trade talks. Do you believe a deal is possible?
It is true that the satellite connection is not very good, but I believe that you're asking me where we are in terms of the trade negotiations. I don't know. I don't have any insight. Was the talk very successful last going on? To show without
I would
Chinese businesses has not been a profit, and they will, as far as I understand, many American companies in China, and they're very profitable, and the great majority of them, I believe, plan to continue to invest in China and explore the Chinese market. Well, now U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff makes it a little bit more difficult, makes the future a little bit uncertain. I do not deny that there are IP infringement, there are copyright issues, or there are piracy, or even theft of commercial secrets. I think that is something that has to be dealt with, and I think the Chinese government and the Chinese people, and me as an individual, I think there's a consensus, because without the protection of IP right, nobody, no country, no individual can be stronger, can develop itself. So I think that is a very clear consensus among the Chinese society. And of course, there are cases where individuals, where companies go and steal, and I think that's a common practice probably in every part of the world. And there are companies in the United States who sue each other all the time over infringement on IP rights. And you can't say, simply because these cases are happening, that America is stealing, or China is stealing, or the Chinese people are stealing. And basically that's the reason why I wrote that rebuttal, because I think this kind of blanket statement is really not helpful, really not helpful.
Well, it's not just a statement, it's reports, including evidence from the WTO. But let me ask you about Huawei, because they're in the headlines right now.
Sure, I don't deny those. No, I don't deny those.
Right. I mean, look, I think, as I said, we can all agree that if you're going to do business with someone, it has to be based on trust. And you don't want anyone stealing your valuable information that you've spent decades working on. Anyway, China passed a law in 2017 requiring tech companies to work with the military and the government. And so it's not just be getting access to this technology, it's the government itself, which is an interesting nuance. But I get that China is upset that Huawei is not being welcomed into the U.S. markets. I totally get it. So let me just ask you this. It's an interesting way to think about it. I think, what if we said, hey, sure, Huawei, come on in. But here's the deal. You must share all those incredible technological advances that you've been working on. You got to share it with us. Would that be okay?
I think it is, if it is through cooperation, if it is through mutual learning, if it is through, if you pay for the use of this IP, of this high technology, I think it's absolutely fine. Why not? We all prosper because we learn from each other. I learned English because I had American teachers. I learned English because I had American friends. I still learn how to do journalism because I have American copy editors or editors. So I think that's illegal. I think and that's how you get better, right?
But you mentioned something pretty important, which is that you should pay for the acquisition of that. And look, I think the liberalized economic world in which we has valued intellectual property, and it's governed by a set of laws, and so we all need to kind of play by the rules and play by those laws if we're going to have that kind of trust in each other. But I think you bring up some good points. Let me turn to China right now, which is now, wow, the second. At what point will China decide to abandon its developing nation status and, well, stop borrowing from the World Bank?
Well, I think discussion is going on, and I've heard very live discussions about this, and indeed there are people talking about China already big. Why don't you just grow up? Basically, I think you said it in your program as well. China grow up. Well, I think we want to grow up. We don't want to be, dwarfed or poor, underdeveloped all the time. But it depends on how you define developing country, right? If you look at China's overall size, the overall size of the Chinese economy, yes, we are very big, the world's #1. But don't forget, we have 1.4 billion people. That is over 3 times the population of the United States. So if you divide the second largest overall economy in the world, basically when it comes down to per capita GDP, we're, I think, less than 1/6 of that of the United States, and even less than some other more developed country, Europe. So you tell me, where should we put ourselves? This is a very complicated issue because, as I said, it's very small, but overall it's very big. So we can do a lot of big things, and people are looking up upon us to do much more around the world. So I think we are doing that. We're contributing to the United Nations. We are the world's biggest contributor to the UN peacekeeping missions, and we're giving out donations and humanitarian aids and all of that because we know we have to grow up. And Trish, thank you for that reminder.
Let's get to the tariffs. I've seen some of your commentaries too, and Shin, I appreciate you think China could lower some of its tariffs. I watched you say that, and I'm totally in agreement with you. In 2016, the average tariff, effectively a tax, that was charged on an American good in China was 9.9%. And that was nearly 3 times what the U.S. was charging. So what do you say about this? What do you think about saying, hey, you know, to heck with these tariffs, let's get rid of them altogether? Would that work?
I think that would be a wonderful idea. I mean, don't you think for American consumers, products from China would be even cheaper, and for consumers in China, products from America would be so much but too. I think that would be a wonderful idea. It should work. Now, you talked about rule-based system, rule-based order. This is the thing. If you want to change the rules, it has to be done in mutual consensus. When we talk about tariffs, it is not just between China and the United States. I understand if you lower tariff just between China and the United States, the Europeans will come, the Japanese would come, the Venezuelans probably would come and say, hey, we want the same tariff. You can't discriminate, you know, between countries. So it is a very complicated settlement to reach, and I think the last and the time when the world agreed on the kind of tariff reduction China should commit to was exactly multilateral and years of difficult negotiations. The United States saw in its interest and decided to what degree they can agree, or to what degree they can lower their tariff, and China agreed to, although with some difficulties, to lower our tariff considerably. It is all the decision of countries according to their own self-interest. Now things are different. Yes, I agree. 20 years later, what are we going to do? Maybe these old rules need to be changed. You know what? Let's talk about it. Let's do it according to the rules, the same rules. If you don't like the rules, we'll change the rules. But again, it has to be a multinational, a multilateral decision.
I would just say, you know, you go back to the trade agreement of 1974, Section 301. There is a rule that enables the United States to use tariffs to try and influence the behavior of China should it be stealing our intellectual property. And that, I think, in some ways is part of what this is back to, and it's a sense of trust. And I hear you on the forced technology transfer, and I think that some American companies perhaps have made some mistakes in terms of being willing to overlook what they might have to give up in the near term. But this is an issue, I think, where the country as a whole needs to step in, and we're seeing the United States do that, perhaps in a way that hasn't happened. I mean, it's been in the background. Previous administrations have identified the challenge, but have really been a little unwilling to take. We're living in these very different times. How do you define state capitalism?
You mean, how do I define? Sorry, I didn't hear the last thing. You mean forced technology transfer, so-called
state
forced
capitalism.
Technology transfer?
No. Well, I guess forced technology transfer. Maybe, but state capitalism. In other words, one of the things that I would
technology transfer is somehow you kind of skip it away.
I'm playing you a compliment here. Hang on one second, Shin. I want to say that I think you know, your of economics is very interesting because you know you have a capitalist system, right? But it's state run. So talk to us about that. How do you define it?
Well, we would like to define a socialism with Chinese characteristics where market forces are expected to play the dominating or the deciding role in the allocation of resources. Basically, you know, let the market, we want it to be a market economy, but there are some Chinese characteristics. For instance, some state-owned enterprises which are playing an important but increasingly smaller role, maybe in the economy. And everybody thinks that China's economy is state-owned, everything is state-controlled, everything is state. But let me tell you, it is not the true picture. If you look at the statistics, for instance, 80% of Chinese employees were employed by private enterprises. 80% of Chinese exports were done by private companies, were produced by private companies. About 65% of technological innovation were carried out by private enterprises. The largest, some of the largest companies that affect our life, for instance, 5 technology company. So we are, yes, a socialist economy with Chinese characteristics. Not everything state control. It's not like that. We're actually quite very dynamic and actually very, very as well.
Well, I think you probably keep being open. I think that as a free trade person myself, I think that that's the direction to pursue. And ultimately, that leads to greater economic prosperity for you and better economic prosperity for us. And so then you get a win-win. But
absolutely.
This was interesting. I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you want to have a discussion in the future, we can do that. If you want to come to China,
I'd love it.
You're welcome, and I'll take you around. Thank you, Trish, for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
But we'll have to think long and hard about the right next steps. Interesting conversation coming up next. We have live reaction from former Reagan Defense Assistant Under Secretary Ronald Reagan. We have Michael Pillsbury.
Get it! Get that butterfly!
You know those butterflies aren't actually.
妈的，根本就不像是辩论啊！被骗了，被这两个家伙骗了，根本就不像是辩论啊！首先，这个美国这个主播，他前面还在采访其他人，委内瑞拉的谁谁谁，然后马上就开始所谓的辩论，但是其实也不是。你看那个题目叫什么 "Trade Talk"， 然后问这个中国这个流行这个主播，感觉就是那几个问题反复在问，你们偷我们东西了吗？你怎么定义的？怎么强制技术转换什么什么的，没有在辩论，没有说什么。其实，但是很明显就是屁股决定脑袋，他屁股就歪在那儿的，所以说他才能问出来这些问题。害老子你妈的熬夜！看看后面还有什么。
Hey, that baker lady's on TV again!
She's not a baker. She wears that apron.
To keep him feeling more energized, Dr. Scholl's, born to move.